All right, good morning. We are live on the Falcons Podcast. It is Monday morning after a preseason week 2 where Michael Penix was once again the story, despite not playing. It's not a big story, but it is the story. It ended up becoming the story, so we'll get into that. We'll get into some of the players, some of the guys who shined. We'll talk a little future opponents, that type of stuff. But for now, welcome in everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. It is Monday morning. We are between weeks 2 and 3, and we're just under 3 weeks away from kickoff for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are having their own problems with Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson. The whole, like, we talk about the synergy that we create here, Nick. Broncos, Falcons, Steelers. Broncos are going to send the Steelers a quarterback, a failed quarterback. The Falcons are going to send them a failed coach, and wow, it doesn't seem to be working very well right now, but we will see on that. First off, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing okay. Not the best sleep last night, but that's okay. We're here. We got coffee. Thank God for that. And looking forward to the week. We had a really fun storm Friday night. I think our biggest storm since 2017. So that kind of got my Midwest vibes going. I think we had like 3,000 lightning strikes out here in Washington or something. So it was fun. We kept our power and excited for the week.
Get off the mountains. Get off the mountain.
I didn't. I was not out there.
Yeah.
I was inside.
All those strikes. Yeah, we got a bunch of rain here. Some trees down. I live right by the Chattahoochee National Forest, and we get trees are coming down all the time around here. So anything. It's always kind of fun to walk the neighborhood. It looks like tossed salad. Every once in a while, you get dusted by a little bit of a tornado around here through here too. You've seen pictures on my Instagram. I've pulled a tree out of the pool, actually twice. Pulled one off of my driveway. Yeah. So on that note, we go live every Monday and Wednesday, and thank you for joining us on Friday. We had a huge views on Friday. Hope you enjoyed the show. The live broadcast commentators are very different than the after the fact, at least on this one. I was surprised at the negative reactions from the commenters, making it sound like we were pissing all over the moves that the Falcons were making. I'm like, wait a minute, I was like pretty giddy. What are you guys talking about? So I appreciate everybody being in here, and I appreciate the comments after the fact when you put some thought into them. Guys like John Harrell says, good morning, Scott and Nick and the Falcons family. Penix is already better than Desmond Ridder, and he's not the starter. I don't think there's any question in that. Desmond Ridder right now, the talk in Arizona is he's not going to make the roster, Nick. He's not going to be QB2, and there's no reason to keep him as QB3.
Yeah, I mean, he's sad, kind of we're not pulling against these guys, but he's definitely been struggling, and good to see. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, Heineke not look as bad as he did the week prior. What did he go out there with? 8 for 16, no touchdowns, but no sacks. Also 7.1 yards per attempt. At least it wasn't. Sometimes you watch third string quarterbacks play, and it's excruciating. And granted, the Falcons only put up 12 points, but not horrific. So good to see that.
How's that for a sell? It wasn't horrific. It wasn't awful. Heineke was fine.
Yeah.
He was fine. The philosophy on this, after we get done saying our hellos, we'll get into it. I tweeted out there, I was like, the Atlanta Falcons, there's been a lot of talk about an 18-game season and scrapping the preseason altogether. I know which way the Atlanta Falcons are voting. This is a waste of time. It's just it's a waste of time. Congratulations to some of the guys that get to go out there and live the dream that might not ever get to again. But for the actual product, let's start camp later or something. Let's do the preseason. Just if it goes away, no one's going to shed a tear if the preseason goes away, as long as they figure out a way to keep player health and safety. And if it's 18 games and a little bit bigger roster, so be it. Mitch says, good morning, fellas. Getting close. I couldn't be more pumped for the season. Same story every year, but this one feels different. Spoken like a true Falcons fan. The scars run deep. But this one, Mitch, this one is different. 2022, we went through the roster and I said 2-15. I was like, and that was the only 2 games they were favored for. It wasn't that wasn't a hot take. The roster was so bad. They did a good job to eke out 7 wins. I thought Arthur Smith did a really good job with that team. They may have been better off going 2-15, but I thought Arthur Smith did a good job with that team. But it was bad. This is different, and you can tell by the people that want to join you, Nick. When you're able to get free agents like Justin Simmons, when Matthew Judon has a choice between going to the Bears and their hotshot rookie and a rebuilding team, a team on the rise, or the Atlanta Falcons and their veteran quarterback and a team that is on the rise, and he chooses the Atlanta Falcons, it's a statement. It says something about the team right now.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear more about that. I know the Falcons have not been dancing around, the super long-term commitment to Judon as well, but it always feels good. It's kind of like recruiting, Scott, right? You always mention that. Well, I've been validated. He chose me. That means that, I have more value here. So really happy for the Falcons for that front. I mean, the Bears obviously could have used another pass rusher as well. And Bears also have, cash to give out. So, I mean, that's not a terrible team that he turned down out there, a terrible team with prospects out there in Chicago. So should be exciting. Maybe does that speak to Kirk Cousins being there? What does it speak to Raheem Morris? I mean, it's I'd be curious to get into his headspace on that.
All of the above. And, we've talked about, I push back, not just push back, I slap back on the idea, we wouldn't have gotten Michael Penix if we didn't have Kirk Cousins. That's the dumbest take of them all. When it comes to it's like, you're going to give $100 million as a bluff so you can draft a quarterback at number 8. That's just moronic. That said, I don't think you get Justin Simmons. I don't think you get Matt Judon with a rookie quarterback. One of the reasons you get those guys is because of Kirk Cousins. Whether or not he ends up playing to the level that we want here in Atlanta, his addition is already paid some dividends. It's already paid the Falcons back to a certain extent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a team that's going for it, and exciting times in Falcons Nation. And seems like the front office, the players, the league kind of think so as well. So NFC South, right? Not a very competitive division comparatively. We'll see. I mean, right, on paper, we'll see. But should be a good season. And we haven't even talked about it, Scott. I'm still a little befuddled that Penix didn't play. I'd be curious to hear more of your thoughts on that.
Let's get through our supporters, our supers, and see who's on that first, and then we'll get to that as well.
Yeah,
because when you're dropping colors like Coach did here, you jump to the top of the queue. Support the show to keep the lights on. Coach says, "Morning, studs. So happy y'all landed Justin Simmons. Go Broncos and Falcons. Have a great day, fam." Yeah, Justin Simmons, he's a huge upgrade over Richie Grant, who started the majority of the games last year. There's no doubt there's an upgrade there, but he's a great dude. He's someone that you can absolutely root for. And I'm glad Justin Simmons is here for a multitude of reasons, because I like Justin Simmons. Yeah. I like listening to his press conferences. I like watching him play. I like watching him interact with his teammates. I like watching Justin Simmons play. And if he was anywhere else, I probably wouldn't watch him, but maybe one game a season. So I'm happy for Falcons fans to introduce Justin Simmons to you if you haven't seen him play much or seen him listen to him speak or anything like that, because Justin Simmons is quality from head to toe.
Yeah, he'll be in charge of like a NGO or some sort of nonprofit at some point, or maybe even run for political office. I don't know, but he is well-spoken, intelligent. Really, I think he has a good heart as well. So
he's got way too much morality to be a politician. So
yeah, that's true.
Those aren't the people I want to compare to.
Yeah, I just think like I'd vote. He's like somebody I listen to him
speak. Vote for him too, but that's probably why he'd never run.
Yeah, probably. He's a very good orator, and very smart too. I mean, with Jesse Bates there, you have one of the smartest backfields in football. Obviously, one of the more talented ones. So, man, I'm really happy I got to keep pulling for and watching Justin Simmons. Obviously, I'll be not pulling for him when Atlanta comes to Denver this year. But other than that, it'll be a lot of fun to keep watching him.
You can root for the individual against the collective.
Yeah.
When Fred McGriff was my favorite player. Fred McGriff was my favorite non-Brave before he became a Brave, which was amazing. And then they traded for him. I'm like, this is amazing. And then he was all that in a bag of chips. He was so good. And it's like when he goes away, I want him to go 4 for 4 with 4 solo home runs, and the Braves win 5-4. That works for me. Edward Brown, he says, not sure I agree with the Raheem Morris decision not to give Michael Penix some reps against the Ravens and now sit him against the Jags. So, yes, headline of the show, headline of the weekend, really. After the Justin Simmons will be announced today. That's definitely news, and he will have his press conference today, I believe, because he's teased his Falcons jacket that he plans on wearing. But Michael Penix ended up really being the headliner for not playing, which is better than being a headliner for playing and getting hurt, I guess. And, the decision we've seen enough of him. And meanwhile, Falcons fans are watching Patrick Mahomes out there doing behind-the-back passes to Travis Kelce. And, what were my initial thoughts? And then I came around on this because I try and think of everything. And then one thing hit me. And I'm like, okay, this one makes sense to me. But what was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was, is he dealing with some sort of small niggle or some injury that they don't want to put him out there? Are they worried that, you're talking about a lot of third and fourth stringers trying to make a name for themselves here, and sometimes there'll be a little extraneous activities, out there. Also not the best tackling form all the time out there. So maybe trying to protect him to some extent. But I really don't fully understand it. I mean, I know he's an older quarterback. He's had injury issues in the past, but you want to get the offense install on him feeling comfortable in case Cousins does go down with injury, and these were lost reps. So I don't agree with it. It wouldn't be my personal philosophy for your backup quarterback who's coming in, who has not, all he's won is the second string quarterback spot. But I'm curious what you have to say. There obviously are some, not rumors, that's the wrong word, conspiracy out there that if Penix comes in, it's going to create controversy because he's going to look so good.
I think that's ridiculous. Yeah, I think that's ridiculous personally.
Yeah,
that's another one. And then people throwing the race thing in there, it's even worse. That's
I don't know
Twitter
about
for
that.
you. Just stop, guys. Just stop. I think that Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot treat the preseason with disdain, flat out, and they just don't seem to think that you can get much out of it. I disagree. My initial reaction was you drafted a quarterback to sit for 2 years to develop him, then play him when you get the opportunity to develop him. I think it's kind of silly not to. It's like, oh, he could get hurt. Man, you can't wrap everybody in bubble wrap like this. A number 2 guy. Then it kind of hit me, Nick. What if Kirk Cousins, who by all accounts is on schedule to play to start week 1, what if he has a setback and isn't able to play week 1, and all of a sudden you get a little niggle from Michael Penix too, and he's not able to play week 1, and you've got to go out there with Taylor Heineke or John Paddock after over-investing into the quarterback position to an extent that you've been ridiculed, including me, across the National Football League for months, and you go out there week 1 and don't have either one of them. Oh my God, that would be an embarrassment level that isn't worth risking it. Honestly, for me, that's what it ends up boiling down to. The risk of possibly not having either one of them is monumental. After you over-invested into the position like this, it would be monumental. To have that happen would be just humiliating. That said, is there something going on with Kirk Cousins that we don't know? Because if they're both healthy and they're both good to go, man, I still would have played him unless something's going on with Cousins. And there's still a 10% chance that he's not going to be ready. But, we saw enough of Michael Penix to not play him anymore. Enough of what? So we're going to wrap him in bubble wrap for the next 2 years? I thought we were going to Jordan Love this guy, Nick. How many reps, how many pass attempts did Jordan Love have in the preseason prior to 2023 and being named the starting quarterback?
I have no idea. Probably plenty.
Well,
but
He played 2020 his rookie season. It was canceled. So it was 21, 22, and then actually he did play in 23 as the presumed starter also. But he took 142 reps. Pass attempts, not even snaps.
Reps, pass attempts.
He had 142 passing attempts in the preseason. Jordan Love did. You develop him. So yes, I would have played Michael Penix unless something is going on with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that does make some. I hadn't thought about that being a potential issue just because there has been no reports of issues there. But I guess there's always a chance something could happen, right? Or there's a flare up. It's just not ready right before the season. So I don't know.
Yeah, if he's 100%, if he's 100, if he's not coming off an injury, does Michael Penix play? Well, we should find out next year, right? We should find out in the preseason next year, assuming everybody stays healthy through the whole year. But again, in 2021, Jordan Love played 2 of the 3 preseason games. He had 35 pass attempts. He had a game of 17 and he had an 18. In 2022, this is your clear number 2 that you're developing to eventually be the heir apparent and replace Aaron Rodgers. 2022, he had 24 attempts, 26 attempts for 74 attempts. And then as the starter, he played in all 3 games in 2023 and had 33 attempts. We're going to use Jordan Love as look how the Packers are doing it. Or they're doing it. If we're going to use Jordan Love on it, well, then use Jordan Love. Let's use apples to apples. Yes, I think Michael Penix should be getting live reps in the preseason based on the information that is available to us. Doesn't mean I'm right. That's my opinion on this. And I didn't say hello to John. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, Penix has a large, scary injury history. You made that big investment in him.
Well, you just made the argument to not take him at all then.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that, but to play football is to risk. I mean, the Chiefs are out there playing Patrick Mahomes. I think more than anything, this is a testament, as you mentioned, to Morris and Fontenot and their thought on just how very little
disdain
preseason matters.
That's the word I would use for it, is disdain for the preseason. We don't want. We have complete contempt for the preseason. That might be the biggest message that you can. The biggest takeaway is the Atlanta Falcons think the preseason is bad. is bad. John Harrell, good to see you. He says, Scott, Nick, what are y'all's expectations for Judon and Simmons? That is a great question. I think Simmons hits the ground running faster than Judon. Even though he's been out of camp, I think his transition, I think it's a little bit easier to go from one team to the other on the back end as opposed to the front end. And frankly, it's easier to play safety than edge.
Yeah, it's also a position that in theory should age more gracefully than edge as well. I'm expecting 8+ sacks for Judon. I think he'll be your most prominent pass rusher by halfway through the season. I mean, he's going to be, I wouldn't say necessarily like a problem. Like, I'm not expecting him to be a top 10 edge, but he's, top 20, top 25. I think that's reasonable. His best seasons were the last couple with New England.
Why not? He's been a top 10 edge when he's been healthy. So why would we not expect him?
He wasn't that in Baltimore before going to New England. So I do think that there's some of it is how New England and Bill Belichick specifically was able to scheme up his one-on-ones, and they run a very unique style of defense out there in New England. So I think just the changing of the scheme out there is going to change things as well. Again, aging, what's he going to be this year? 32 years old.
And happy birthday, Kirk Cousins. Now we can say 36-year-old Kirk Cousins today. Happy birthday to Kirk Cousins. He is now 36.
So, and I just, I guess I could pull up the edge rushers, but a bunch of young, ascending talents or guys who are more in their, 26 to 28 range, I would put over Judon now that he's changing schemes, held out. It's
coming off an injury again. Yeah. It's like I said, that's why I think Simmons hits the ground running a little bit faster than Judon. Now, if Judon can come out and he's the defensive line that he's going to be playing on is super talented. He's got guys that should be able to eat up double teams for him He should see more. He should see less double teams than he has in the past. The Falcons front is good. It's really good, and that should help. That should help him out too. And again, they can use him in so many ways. He's a beast. I mean, he's 6'3", 275 pounds. It feels weird to say edge or even outside linebacker when he's, defensive end. My expectations are upgrades. I thought Bud Dupree did a good job last year. He's Bud Dupree plus. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit quicker, a little bit more productive. And Bud Dupree did a good job with 6.5 sacks last year and a really good job sealing the edge in the running game, Nick.
Yeah. He was a useful player, a mercenary type, but you need those guys, and Judon should be a step up in theory from that on this team. So we'll be seeing what happens with him. And we got I see a comment here. Thank you, John Harrell, for the 20. I see Mark Giggity saying people talk about Judon's age, but Calais was old last year and still trying to sign him. Different position. Also, Calais is such a unique physical body type that he's still going to be, 6'8", 300 pounds, where Judon's, built a little bit more classical hand in the dirt edge type. So it's the size difference. They're different, play different positions, different styles. I don't think that's a 1-for-1.
And you can be a useful player. Calais Campbell was a useful player, but he wasn't prime Calais Campbell.
No.
How close are we expecting to prime Matt Judon? Pretty close.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Pretty close. Yeah. I don't expect to see much of a drop off with him. We talk about the long-term contract there. Raheem Morris has referenced the Von Miller deal. Basically the Rams traded for Von Miller at the deadline, got him up to speed, and he was a wrecking ball for the Rams, and they won a Super Bowl. But we didn't sign him immediately to a new contract, and we lost him in free agency because the Bills gave him a bag. Von, you're not turning that deal down for God's sakes. But he got that bag because he played so well. So if Judon comes and helps the plays at that level for the whole year, and you lose him, he only ends up being a 1-year rental. Well, great. You got 15 sacks and made a run in the playoffs for a 3rd-round pick. I'll take it. I'll tell you, he was only a 1-year rental. Did he play well or not? Because a Pro Bowl caliber season at the edge rusher position for 1 year is worth a 3rd-round pick for a team with playoff aspirations, Nick.
Yeah. It is worth a shot. A team with the edge rusher questions that the Falcons had as well. And Judon will be in theory, should be a very positive player. And a 3rd-round pick for a veteran of Judon's age and the contract status is not a cheap cost as well. Those top 100 picks are quite valuable. So it's not like they got him for nothing. So they obviously value him, and excited to see what he can do. I mean, that's been a position that's been horrific on the Falcons for a long time, since John Abraham, right out there. So hopefully he can come in.
They had a flash season from Vic Beasley.
Yeah.
In 2016. Yep. And frankly, it led him to a Super Bowl because the defense was poor that year. And then it got hot. The defense went on a heater about the last 5 or 6 games, all until about the last 18 minutes of 2016. But they went on a heater because overall you look and it's like, okay, number 1 offense, or number 2 defense, number 1 offense, and then 25th in scoring. Their scoring defense over the course of the season was poor. Greg Custom Kicks, good to see you. Appreciate you being here. He says, good morning, guys. Working on a Falcons custom shoe as we speak, ready for the season, getting wisdom teeth removed this Friday. Not too thrilled about that. I had that done when I was 18, I think, and I had all 4 of them. It wasn't too bad. I would do my tonsils now, but they say doing that as an adult is a MFer. They say it's really, really harrowing. So hopefully teeth are teeth, man, and it'll be nice and easy for you. Get shot up with Novocaine, get some knocks, and yank them and enjoy the day. I was actually listening to Metallica, Anesthesia. It's a bass solo, pulling teeth while it was getting done. So hope you're feeling good. Thank you for helping us feel better today, Greg. And we appreciate the support. See some stuff coming in here on wanted to say hello to Michael. I saw Michael come in as well. Busy this morning. Michael says, good morning, Scott and Nick on the Falcons podcast. Appreciate you being here. Red Swarm comes in. He says, good morning, all. The decision by Morris to not play Penix doesn't come as a surprise to me. I think it's on par with Sean McVay's views on how to approach the preseason, which is basically F the preseason. Didn't their GM kind of joke, F them picks, or was that like an actual quote? He was actually kind of joking about it, but serious. F the preseason. That's the philosophy that I'm getting here.
Yeah, it does not seem to matter very much. I know a lot of coaches prefer the joint practices as well, because you can have a much more controlled environment, both from an injury perspective and a situation perspective. So maybe it's going to be something you keep talking about at the 18-game schedule. Throw them an extra bye week as well, please. And maybe you get one or two joint practices where you go to a facility, another team comes to yours. One or two, depending if you want to do. You can have those controlled environments, still get your one-on-ones going. I mean, there's always risk of injury, but that's like, half the terrible injuries are non-contact. So
yeah, it's still football. At the end of the day, we're going to play football. And it's like, oh, well, as soon as I hear that, well, they're scared of, I don't want to hear that. You can't play scared. You can't do this game scared. That, especially, I don't know, as Falcons fans, you just warm up the gods who are against you anyway. But no, the idea hit me of, okay, what if Kirk has a setback and Michael Penix rolls an ankle and neither one of them are available for week 1? Holy freaking the scrutiny, not even the scrutiny, you would be a laughing stock. Oh, you went and spent $100 million on a quarterback. You drafted one number 8 a couple of weeks later, and you're starting Taylor Heineke again. That's falconing. That is falconing, baby. That's right there. So I get it a little bit, but yes, Red Swarm. I think the overall takeaway is F the preseason. That's my big takeaway. And as a fan, you want to see these guys a little bit more. Hey, I've been waiting to see the shiny new toys. So it's a little disappointing, but at the end of the day, who really. Do you remember the preseason records? I don't. I remember, I think Jerry Glanville was 4-0 his first year in the preseason, and then they went 4-12. That's about the only one I remember, because that taught me in 1990, 91, don't pay attention to the preseason. I was 17 years old. So appreciate you, Red Swarm. One of the things you did get a chance to do, at least what I did, I didn't necessarily watch the offense that much, because I'm like, okay, there's nobody out here that really you should see much of. Chris Blair did okay. I thought Davenport at left tackle, I like him. I like how he moves. I like his body type. I think he's got a chance to make this team, despite the fact that he was playing. Anybody else on offense, I'm not sure about. I like him. So on the offensive side of the ball, he was the guy that I said, all right, I like this guy. I like Davenport at left tackle. I think he's got a chance to be a good player in this league.
I remember him coming out of Bucknell a while ago, watching some of those small school offensive linemen. So always fun to see those tiny, non-Power 5 guys stick out. Did you have any thoughts on the running backs? I know that I thought McClellan looked pretty good. Carlos Washington, I mean, how much opportunity is going to be there, considering, knock on wood, but with Algier and, of course, Robinson. But that running back 3 battle, that's one that was definitely on display versus this Ravens defense. Good morning, Mark. Good to see you.
I thought Washington looked solid, but no, I mean, running back 3 should get 3 touches this year.
Yeah.
If one of those guys that carried the ball on Saturday is carrying the ball during the regular season, I'm much more worried about something else. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, Tyler got hurt, Bijan got hurt. That's going to be so. No, I didn't focus on them because I'm like, these guys aren't going to play. They're not the guys I want playing. On the defensive side of the ball, though, there are a couple guys out there. The rotation is so much heavier on defense during real games that, yes, Brandon Dorlus has a chance to play. Yes, Zion Logue has a chance to play. Yes, Ruka Rohuro has a chance to play. And frankly, Nick, the second team, however you want to stack them in there, the DL looked good. Now, I committed his name to memory. The defensive end they got from Washington, he's wearing number 50, James Smith Williams, not Washington. He was good. He's like, okay, this looks like a beast for a reserve coming in now that he's not one of your starters. So I was thrilled with the depth on the defensive line, and then JD Bertrand backing him up.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to 98 flashing out there. That first, maybe the first drive, second drive, but beautiful play. You just see the explosiveness, strength, balance, potential with Rook Rohoro. Rohoro. Got it. We're gonna have to get that one down. I always just Scooby Doo it all the time. Rutro. But Rook, really good play out there, and excited to see that potential because early pick moving up for him. He needs to be not just a starter, but probably a trajectory towards a plus starter. So good to see him make a splash play like that, and hopefully show that potential.
Yeah, he defensive line might be interior defensive line might be the hardest place to make an early impact. So draft those guys and let them develop. I get that. That's what this draft was. This was a developmental draft. You get your quarterback of the future. We're going to draft our line for 2026, our eventual replacements, and let them take some snaps in the preseason. Let them play second team snaps during the year. But yeah, I thought those guys all look good. And then I worry a little bit. The star of the show was Nathan Brooks. Not just on, I think he had like 15 tackles, led the team, and then he was sure-handed. He handled punt return duties. I'm like, okay, this is a guy who is making it uncomfortable for the administration to figure out how they can try and keep him on the 53. And if not, at the very least, because again, I root for the names on the back of the jerseys probably more than the front of the jerseys. If not, he earned himself a job somewhere, which is, a good $800,000 a year gig if he can hook on with somewhere as a league minimum. So Nathan Brooks had himself a day, and as we pissed all over the preseason, it's amazing for guys like this to be able to go out there and get a chance.
Yeah. He really did stand out. Shout out to him. Tackle for loss, too. You never really want, ideally, a defensive back to lead your team in tackles, but, preseason, whatever. We're not going to make too much of it. And in a secondary, Scott, again, it's backups. How much can we actually have grand sweeping takeaways from this? But I thought the secondary was probably the worst output of the Falcons team that I watched in this. Despite the Falcons offense only putting up 12 points, I didn't think the secondary did very well outside of Nathan Brooks, who was everywhere. Really thought he had a great game, and special teams as well, as you put it out there. So hopefully he's somebody who can make this team and find his way onto the 53.
Yeah, there was one who specifically, it was Anthony Johnson. Poor Anthony Johnson had a nightmare out there. And if he was fighting for a spot, I think he's in trouble. I don't know that we were counting on him to try and make one, but I think he's in trouble. Chris, good to see you, Chris. Says, good morning, everyone. Watching along with Scott and Nick. Maybe our new defense can actually rush the quarterback and our secondary can get more turnovers. It's nice to have some excitement instead of only hope and considerable concern for results on the upcoming season. Yeah. Instead of hoping all of these things go right, it's like, well, let's go full Falcon on this and just hope that things don't go wrong. You don't need, I need this guy to develop into this player. No. I just need for it not to go wrong. I need Justin Simmons to be Justin Simmons. I don't need him to become something else. I need Matt Judon to be Matt Judon. Jesse Bates, if AJ Terrell steps up, now I need some health. There's some key players out there that are coming off some season-long injuries, including your quarterback, Kirk Cousins, but you have a reserve. You've got a backup plan there. Grady Jarrett and Matt Judon are both coming off season-ending injuries. There's three pretty significant players. If you're hoping, that's one of the places where there's okay, I hope it goes right, where they come out healthy.
Yeah. Any other big guys who stood out to you? We have to talk about wide receiver, of course. Chris Blair, almost 100 yards out there, 4 catches on 5 targets. Now that you've had multiple injuries at wide receiver, is Blair somebody who stands out, or is this again, sample size, 4 catches, like how much can you actually take away? Is that going to move the needle at all?
Yeah, there was a linebacker, Zach Etheridge was who it was. He seemed to lead the team in tackles 2 years in a row in the preseason and couldn't get a sniff of the 53. I think he may have gotten elevated from the practice squad once. So I'm not too worried. And John says, I want to see Kyle Pitts break out. We all do, brother. We all do. And Zay says, I bought tickets to Friday's game to see him specifically. And that's unfortunate. Hopefully you got them at a big discount. Some guys that stood out to me, I thought Dion Logue looked good up there. And that, Ruka Rohoro had a splash play for sure. I said Davenport, I really liked him. And I just put in my notes, I said, I was impressed with the whole second team DL. Anthony Johnson struggled. We hit on that. And there's a guy out there that we've given him plenty of gruff to for not being able to crack the lineup and make an impact. But D'Angelo Malone has been really good on special teams. And then he held his own against the 2s and 3s of Baltimore, where he did okay when he was getting his reps out there. I just don't know how many of these guys you can keep because they are good on special teams. You've got, if you're carrying Avery Williams, who doesn't really have a position, D'Angelo Malone is going to be way down the pecking order on the edge room. That can you keep those guys? But by God, D'Angelo's playing great on special teams, that there will be one of the other 31 teams that needs a special teams ace that he can be able to earn a living if he doesn't make the Falcons 53.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. I thought an A popped a few times as well, just pressure-wise. I mean, not a dominant player, but if you're getting after the quarterback and causing them to change their spot, I think PFF, let me pull it up here, had him leading the team with 3 pressures, 2 hurries, 1 hits, and also had 2 tackles. So, again, another guy out there that I thought had an okay game, the back end of the roster. So some of these guys are going to make the team and make an impact, but definitely Scott, I watched this game last night after the little guy went to bed and after the Broncos had played their starters, for 3 reps and a lot of backups and stuff for halfway through the third quarter. So coming to watch this, a little bit of a letdown, right? As far as the impact and just the names, right? It's like, who's that? Look it up. Okay. That's good to see that. That's
certainly a different philosophy. You got a team that, again, follow what they do, not what they say. And the Denver Broncos philosophy is we need to get these guys as game ready as possible to survive. And the Falcons we want to wrap these guys in bubble wrap because we really like our team.
The language the Broncos have used is building callous.
Wavy2X says, hey, Scott and Nick, first time catching you guys live. Well, we certainly appreciate you coming in and saying hello. Thank you very much. Corey Carter's in with a super. He says, seems like we are often baffled by this regime. Are you new here, Corey? No, I tease. Yes, you're right. Just flat out. It goes back much farther than this regime, though. That said, did you come out at the end where you were hoping you were going to come out? Okay. Coming into the season, what are the 3 biggest needs on this team? Nick, let's rewind back to January. What are the 3 biggest needs on this team?
Quarterback, edge rusher, head coach. Was that in January too? No.
So the head coach has already been hired.
Yeah, safety probably as well.
And safety. And then I'd say cornerback 2 would be 4.
Yeah.
Would be 4. Safety was a bigger need for me than cornerback 2. How'd you do? How'd you do in filling those needs over the course of the last 8 months? How'd you do?
Pretty good. Interesting the timeline wise on a few of those, hitting 2 of the 3 in August, which is typical.
Heading into week 1, when I line up on Madden and I see the names on there, when they line up and I see 15 and 31 and what's Kirk wearing? 18? And 18 out there, I'm going to say Terry Fontenot won the he won the offseason. He won the offseason.
Yeah.
Now, how does that translate? That's the key. And yes, there is Falcon derangement syndrome. We use the term Falcon as an adverb, an adjective, a noun, and a verb around here. We know. But what more What more could you have asked from your administration this season? I mean, okay, did I like how they handled the quarterback position at the time? Not necessarily. Am I happy with where things have ended up? Yes, very. If you draft Leatu, you're not getting Matthew Judon. You're not making that move. If you were to take a third-round safety, you're not getting Justin Simmons. You're not going after those guys. So at the end of the day, which is what we're going to judge this team on, is the end of the day. Let's talk again in January, is how we will eventually judge this team. But at the end of the offseason, come September 1st, Atlanta Falcons brass has gotten an A. They have gotten an A. ATL, they've gotten an A.
Yep. So a lot of questions still unanswered, right? How does it all work together? Right? You're kind of like throwing ingredients together for a new recipe, and we don't know exactly how all the cooks are going to be as well, right? Like Zach Robinson, is he going to end up being a quality offensive coordinator? Scott, I'm very much a players over coaches when it comes to the impact on the football field. Maybe I underestimated the value of some of these guys coordinating specifically on the offensive side of the ball after maybe I'm just drinking, the Sean Payton juice right now, but just seeing how it actually looks when it's beautifully coordinated and there's an idea, a plan in place and setting things up. But Robinson's a big, we'll have a chance to talk about that, but a lot of investment on the offense, a lot of good pieces. Is Robinson going to answer the call there with the talent that he has? Is he going to be worthy of, handling the controller?
But again, but did you get the guys you were targeting? Yes. And did you get a young offensive coordinator? Again, this is all on paper. This is the offseason. Now it's got to come together because at the end of the day, but I will not regrade. Okay. I got hell from one of our watchers on YouTube for saying on a long enough timeline. Well, yes, I'd be pretty damn close-minded if I didn't take new information and adjust how I look at things. I'm not going to be Seth Walder out there who, no matter whatever the move the Falcons make, pisses on them drafting a quarterback. No, getting Justin Simmons was a good move. Getting Matthew Judon was a good move for $6.5 million on his contract, for God's sakes, and a third-round pick. Shannon Davis asked a good question. He says, were we always going to do this, or was it a reactionary from injuries? I think it was reactionary. I do. But I don't know this for sure. I think if Helms is healthy, Justin Simmons is not a Falcon. I don't know on Judon. He was gotten cheap. I mean, he really was. A third-round pick for Matt Judon. You make that deal even if Braylon Trice isn't hurt. And again, I'm not counting on Braylon Trice to have the same impact as Matt Judon this year. I'm just not. That'd be silly. I think it's a little of both, Shannon. I do. I think it makes a lot of the moves made a lot of sense. And you're not mortgaging the future because as Jordan comes in, he says, and we're still under the cap and not renting like the Aints. Yeah, these are one-year deals that you made for some veterans to go in and see if you can win now without really mortgaging your future. Out of all this, what'd you give up? Third-round pick. Not even cap on the back end, Nick, because Simmons and Judon are on one-year deals, prove-it deals.
Yeah, not expensive. I think I agree with you that you'd make that move for Judon no matter what. And I will push back a little bit just given what the market is like. Teams are really value their draft picks in the top 100. So third-round pick for a one-year rental is not super cheap, in my opinion. Now, granted, maybe that's pick 90 versus 75 or wherever the Falcons have been around. But I think that's still a solid investment for trading for a guy. Cause I mean, it's hard to get teams to trade for veterans. It just is. I mean, it just does not happen that often. Unless you're talking about we'll give you a fifth and you send back a seventh and you get the veteran with the contract. Judon's obviously a better player than that, but that's for a player like that at his age.
The Rams spent more than that on 6 games of Von Miller.
Yeah. Hall of Fame, Von Miller, but
not when you got him. You know,
Yeah,
you didn't get him as a Hall of Famer. You got a similar player to where Matt Judon is right now, which is Pro Bowl caliber.
yeah.
You know, so again, I don't think a third rounder for a Pro Bowl caliber edge is an overspend, especially on the salary.
I don't think it was an
honest.
overspend. I'm not saying it was an overspend, but I also don't think it was cheap. That's a pretty good investment given what we see right now at the market in terms of how veterans are traded for.
It was Mark because the Bears offered that too, but I didn't look at that and go, "You gave up a third round pick, my God!" No, I'm like, third round pick, nice.
Yes,
that was mine. And yet, Justin Simmons will wear 31 again. Matt Judon will wear 15. We will be getting out of here. We're going to take off. If you want to continue the conversation, we're going to head over to youtube.com/milehighhuddle in the next 20 minutes or so. But we will be back on Wednesday morning, and we'll break down a little bit more of the roster again. We'll start getting into the 53s. Justin Simmons is supposed to have his press conference announced today. I don't think there's any injuries to speak of from the weekend. That's good. And we'll see what the Falcons end up doing. They ended up cutting James Washington to make room for Justin Simmons. So that's one less player to he was on the outside looking in, but I thought he had a chance to come in and earn a spot as a slot receiver. So lots to talk about still, as you can tell from my ADD kicking in as I'm spinning through all these names in my head. So we got lots to talk about. I want to thank everybody who has recently subscribed and all of you who have been subscribed for a long time. The channel is growing across all platforms. On Friday, we had about 10,000 views for the show, which is awesome. And we couldn't do it without people like you. And I want to say thank you to the folks that help support the show financially as well, like Coach Edward Brown, Greg Custom Kicks. Want to see those shoes? Take a picture of them and throw them up on X, or hell, send me a picture. I'll show them. Corey, and of course, John Harrell for coming in with the super chats. Y'all keep the lights on, keep my forehead nice and shiny. Keep us back on Wednesday. Nick, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
If week 2 preseason was that down the line, week 3 is going to be tough probably, but it's better than no football to watch, and excited for week 1. I mean, Steelers seem to be ready to turn on each other, eating themselves a little bit. And man, it'd be great to I mean, I know there's a lot of hate for the Steelers envy with how they've been such a great organization. I don't have any hate for them by any means, but starting them 0-2 would be pretty darn nice. So let's have the Falcons and the Broncos take care of business there. That'd be fantastic. But getting excited for the start of the season and what it all actually looks like with real football. I mean, we are 3 weeks away, Scott, now? Less than 3 weeks away from that happening. So real exciting stuff.
Jordan Brown, I heard we traded our Doc draft pick to the Pats. I don't believe it, but then I hear if we don't re-sign Judon, we get a third-round comp pick. Let me get to this. Nick, if you need to go prep the show, you can head on out. Say goodbye. Okay. Bill Barnwell has a really great explanation, just nice out there for you on comp picks. It is really hard to get comps. It's really hard. That said, the Falcons could be in a position to do it because they've got a pretty loaded roster and may not be a factor in free agency. Basically, if you are a player in free agency, you're not going to get a comp pick because the second you sign a free agent of any value at all, it cancels out any free agent that you lose. But the Falcons roster is in pretty good shape that they might just be happy to build with their first and second round draft pick next year and just supplement with smaller things. But it's really, really hard to get a draft pick because a comp pick because you have to stay out of the free agent market in order to do so. So I don't expect to get a comp pick, but we'll see. It is a possibility. So appreciate y'all being here. We will see you Wednesday. Hit that like and subscribe so you get the notifications when we go live in case we do go live for special occasions like a Friday post Simmons podcast. We'll see y'all later. Thanks for being here.